Okay, guys, the name of this sermon is going to be called It's the Little Things in Life. It's the little things in life. This is going to be your New Year's sermon. We're at the end of 2016 tonight as I'm recording this. It is a little after 9 o'clock, about 9:15 or so, and it's almost New Year's, just a few hours away, ready to jump right into 2017. And as I was explaining to somebody earlier this week on Facebook, we're in this year of 5777 on the Jewish calendar. This is what they call a Jubilee year. A Jubilee year, and it is going to be an awesome year for God's people. This 2017, a very special year, a year of rest for a lot of people that have gone through a lot of things, not just rest, but also restoration, things being restored to people, people getting back things that were owed to them or kept from them or stolen from them. There are people that will experience debt cancellation, experience all kinds of supernatural things happen. A very big year for a lot of people, and a lot of people will be blessed. And I also believe that it's going to be a year of surprises. I believe a lot of people they'll experience some surprises. This year has been a year where a lot of people have had to let certain folks go. People get negativity out of their life, removing people that don't really mean them any well. But in this year, it'll be a year where not only will more people that care and want to help enter into the lives of God's people, but like I said, a lot of good things that could have came to people or should have came to people this year will end up coming to them in this year moving forward in 2017. So it's gonna be a really good year, I believe, and I'm excited about it. And it'll be a year where people will be very surprised at who comes to the rescue to help them, to be good to them, whether it be new people entering into their life, or even possibly someone from the past who would be somebody you would least expect, may come in and just help you out in some kind of way or another, or bless you in some kind of way, and you just didn't see it coming. So it'll be a good year, and I'm excited to see what happens for a lot of people, and I'm definitely believing for some big things myself. But anyway, as I've said, the name of this is It's the Little Things in Life, and basically what I'm getting at is this: with this new year coming, just like with any year, a lot of people will say, okay, it's a new year. We're going to have, some new beginnings. And I'm believing for big things this year. And I got my New Year's resolutions and blah, 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 right? Believing for something big. But let me say, going into this year, that you should very much pay close attention to the little things. Not to say that big things won't happen. Sure, they will. But it could be that some of the really big things that are about to happen could be tied to things that at first will appear to you to be little things, minor things, things that might not seem like a big deal, or even people that may not seem to be a big deal in the eyes of others. Somebody who could be considered quote unquote replaceable in the eyes of others. Someone that could be considered insignificant in the eyes of others could very well be the very person that could be the biggest blessing to you, and it could shock people, and they could say, I didn't see this coming. I didn't really think much of this person, but they had more going on than I originally thought. Maybe I should have treated them better. And that's the whole point. Going into this year, be careful how you treat people. Continue to treat people good, because you may have people from your past, especially from this particular year, 2016, who they've done you wrong over time, and they're hoping that you'll be so hurt and so upset that when the new people come in, you'll reject them. because you'll be too busy worried and scared thinking, well, are they going to be good to me, or are they going to, hurt me like these people of the past did? They're hoping to ruin things for you before you really truly get into them. Does what I'm saying make sense? And so be willing to embrace people that are good to you, even if it seems like they're just kind of a random person. You know what I mean? Like they could be someone that doesn't understand you, or someone that can't really help you in your times of need. You never know. You just never know. Sometimes people keep their truest identity hidden, sometimes just to see how they will be treated. And so maybe that's what it's all about. Maybe you have very important people who may kind of wear a disguise, or put on a disguise, or act a certain way, and to come across as just the average Joe, just to see how you will treat them. Will you walk all over them? Will you push them aside to get to somebody that seems more important? Somebody that may seem to have more money, somebody that may seem more handsome or more beautiful, somebody that may seem to have more going for them in life. Because like I said, once again, you never know. Some of the people that you step over could be someone who could be your biggest blessing. So continue to just be good to people, no matter how important or unimportant people may seem in the eyes of other folks. So just a little heads up to some folks. I think that is going to help some people. What I just said just now is going to be key for some people that may listen to this sermon going into this new year. Just watch how you treat people. When you see somebody being done wrong, you don't have to jump on the bandwagon. Continue to be a Christian. Continue to be good to folks, because you never know. You never know. Somebody just might be in disguise. You don't know. They're just trying to see how you're going to treat them before they decide how they're going to be like, surprise, let me help you out, So just something to think about there. Just something to consider. But anyway, like I said, acknowledging the little things, the little things can go a long way. The little things can lead to the big things. Little things can be the big things in disguise. Same way with people. And so I want to start this sermon out here in 2 Kings chapter 5. And this is a story that if you've listened to me for quite some time, this story is familiar. I won't dig in it too much. I just want to quickly make some points. But I want to start and read just a few verses here. At the beginning of chapter 5, it says this: Now Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master, and honorable, because by him the Lord had given deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper. And the Syrians had gone out by companies and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid. And she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said unto her mistress, Would God my Lord were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy. I'll stop right there for the sake of time. We know this story. We know the story of Naaman. He was a captain. He was a king. He had a lot of prestige. He was a man of valor. He had a lot going for him. The only catch was that he had leprosy. We know that leprosy was this disease. It was like this flesh-eating disease, and it could really ruin a person's life. If people found out that you had it, they would want to quarantine you, separate you from just the common public. If you were walking around in public, people could point at you and yell, unclean, unclean, to warn others in the area to look out for you and to not get too close to you and not to touch you, so that they don't get this disease that you have, this virus. They don't want to get it. And it was something that if you had it, a lot of people assumed right off the bat that you did something bad to get it. yeah, it was something that could be contagious and gotten through other people, but a lot of times people would be quick to assume that you didn't just catch it from somebody or somewhere. A lot of times they assumed that you sinned and you did such a big sin that you were cursed with leprosy. And so you were already looked at as, oh no, let's stay away because I don't want to get what that person has. But people move away from you even the more so because they're thinking, oh no, what did this person do to even get this problem? And so it was definitely something that could cause Naaman some issues. Because, like I said, it could ruin a person's life. It could cause a person to lose friends, lose family. And if they had a really good career, it could totally just tear their career apart. And so, with this Naaman guy being a captain and a king and having all this honor and valor attached to him, he doesn't need people finding out that he has leprosy. And evidently, he has it on a part of his body that he can keep hidden so that, as for now, people don't know. He can keep it hidden, but of course it's going to spread. And so he's got to do something to stop this as soon as possible. But you got to be careful because, he doesn't want to let too many people know of this problem, because if word gets out, it's going to be bad for him. So he has to be careful who he can even share this issue with. And so there were people working for Naaman who, while out and about, they kidnapped, I guess you could say, this maid. And so they've got her held captive. She's tending to the wife of Naaman. And this little maid, when she finds out about Naaman's issue, she decides to be nice and help him out and give good advice. And the advice is, hey, I know a prophet that can help you with your problem, a true man of God who can help you with your issue of leprosy. And we see here in verse 2, it calls her a little maid. Now, let me just say this. Naaman, because of these titles attached to him, captain, king, valor, honor, because of this reputation, he is looked at as someone who is big. Now, I don't know if he is tall or short or skinny or wide, but regardless, it doesn't matter. He can be as short as he can be, but what I'm saying is he's still big in the eyes of the people. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's two different bigs. There's big as in actual physical size, but then there's big as in perspective, how people view you. So since people view him with such honor and valor, and because he has such high up ranks and titles, he is viewed as a big deal by the people. So in the eyes of the people, he's big. Do you get what I'm saying? Now it says in verse 2 that this little maid is little. Now, it could mean that she's little as in, little, tiny, short. But it can also show that people view her as little. In other words, since she's just some maid that's been kidnapped, people could view her as someone that's not all that important, especially not compared to someone like Naaman. So whether or not she's tall or short, whether or not she's big or little, physically, in the eyes of people or in the perspective of people, she is just little. Somewhat insignificant, not really a big deal, just a little maid. Not a special maid, not a fancy maid, not a spectacular maid, not a maid that we can all adore and admire, just a little maid. But even though she was considered a little maid, she had a big answer for Naaman's problem. So let's look at the big picture here. You have Naaman, who's big in the eyes of people. He has a small issue that if it continues to spread is going to be a big problem. So he needs a big solution to this, what could turn into a big problem. But lo and behold, the one that has the answer, oh boy, The one that has the answer is looked at as little. Someone so not important that they view it okay to keep her held hostage. Oh, so what? So what, we have her, so what, we make her tend to us. No big deal. She's just a little maid. But the little maid had a big solution. And so I'm bringing that up to simply say this. As I said earlier, continue to be good to folks, even those that you don't think much of. See, we want to look at people that are high up in power and high up in authority, high up in ranks, high up in titles and positions. And so we want to basically just look at the kings of this earth, the rulers, the people that seem to really be on top. But you got to make sure that on your way to the king, so to speak, you don't step over good people. You might be thinking, oh, the king's my way in, when in reality it could be the maid or the butler or the jester or some type of servant. Oh, come on. They could be the one that has the key. They could be the one to give you your big break. But if you listen, if you look at them as simply nothing but just something little, something unimportant, something replaceable, something irrelevant, you could very well miss out on something big. Don't listen. Listen, you got to be careful when going about your natural eye with some of this stuff going into this next year. Sometimes it's just not going to be what it originally seems. But when it's all said and done, if you go about things the right way, the Christian way, where you don't want to just belittle and step over people and bully people and push people to the side and act like you're too good for certain folks, and get on your high horse and act like people are just so beneath you. If you can continue to be good to folks, you never know who you'll come across. Some of the people you look at as so small, so little, can sometimes be the very person that can help you achieve the big. But if you don't give them a chance, you just want to walk past them and walk over them and talk to them any kind of way, you may miss out. And so now let's skip on down to verse 14. Like I said, I don't want to read too much. I just want to get straight to the point with all this. What ends up happening is Naaman agrees to take heed to what the maid girl is saying. And he gets the tip to go to a certain place. He travels to this place to talk to the prophet Elisha. And Naaman is given the word to go to the Jordan River and to dip down into this river 7 times. And when he dips down, he will be healed of his leprosy. His skin won't have leprosy in it anymore. And so he goes. And verse 14 says, then went he down and dipped himself 7 times in Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God. So he obeyed. And it says, and his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. So let's look at this. Let's look at the big picture here. He goes to the Jordan River. Big man going to a river, a big body of water. And not only is it a big bottle of water, I said a big bottle of water, a big body of water, a big body of water, because it's not just, it's not just a little bathtub, it's not a little kiddie pool, it's not a little pond, it's a river. So not only is it a big body of water, but it's not just any big body of water, it's the Jordan. It's the same river that John the Baptist was baptizing people in. It's the river that John the Baptist baptized Jesus in. So this is an important landmark. In other words, not only is it big to the physical eye, but it's big in the perspective of people's minds. Oh, the Jordan River, big deal. It's right? Now I know this is Old Testament, don't get me wrong, so it's actually before that played out in the New Testament with Jesus and everything, but you get my point. Now, when we read it, we can look at it and say, oh wow, he got to dip down in this river for his miracle before we see this play out in the Gospels. This is a big deal, right? So it's a big deal. Big body of water, and it's big in our minds, in our perspectives, because it's not just any river, it's the Jordan River. But even though he went to this big body of water at a place of such importance, when he gets there, the thing that he has to do is a little thing. It wasn't that he had to go and swim across the whole entire river. It wasn't that he had to go under there and try to hold his breath for as long as he could and try to set a world record. It wasn't that he had to get on a big diving board and try to outdo somebody on flips on their way down into the water. It wasn't anything big. It wasn't that he really had to put a lot of work into what he had to do when he got to the river. He went to a big place to do the simplest of acts, just dipping his body down in this water, something that he could have did in a lot of other places. Something so little, such a small little act to do in such a big place. Sometimes we find ourselves in places that we feel like is so beyond us. We feel out of our league. And I really believe that in this year coming up, I believe that a lot of God's people that just really seek him and really love him and have really held on to him regardless of all the hell they may have gone through this year, I believe that this year will be a year where a lot of God's people will find themselves in places that it's just going to blow their mind, and it's going to make them think, wow, I can't believe that I get to be here. I can't believe that I have the honor of being in such a place. I feel so honored. I feel like I'm so undeserving and so unworthy to be here, because it seems like there are some people that are more qualified to be here than myself. So here you are, little old you in a big place, and you may go to places and do some big things, but sometimes when you go to big places, you may have something very little to do, just a simple act, a simple thing in such a big place. And it may blow your mind. It might make you think, really? I'm going here just to do this simple thing? But the simple acts that you do are going to go a long way. They will have, a chain reaction. Naaman went to a big place to do a simple little task, but look at what it did. It fully restored him because he did that little task with big faith. If you can do little things, see, we don't think anything big is going to happen unless we do something big and spectacular, is what I'm trying to get you to see. Sometimes God will put you in places where you do the simplest things, but the littlest things can make the biggest difference. So if you go to a big place, you get sent to a big place to do something that seems so little and insignificant, and you get an attitude and you blow it off and have this perspective of, well, if I'm going to go to that place, I want to do something big and I want to be in the spotlight. You may get you some spotlight moments, but sometimes it's not about being in the spotlight and doing something that seems big right off the bat. If you would but just do the little assignments, sometimes big blessings come out of that. And we see that that's exactly what happened for Naaman. Not only was his flesh healed of leprosy, but look at what it says here at the end of verse 14. It says the flesh was of a little child. Now, there may be some people that maybe you're an adult You might be in your 20s or 30s. You might be very healthy. You might have a lot going for you. And somebody might say, hey, would you want your skin to go back to being the skin of a child, just soft and tender? And some of those people would be like, heck no, I don't want that. I look good right now. I don't want any changes to myself. And they might not. They might, to them, everything's fine and dandy. They don't want to, look like a little kid. They want to look like the handsome stud they are, right? However, you go up to somebody in this world that we live in where everything's about sex, where everything is about looking good all the time and turning heads and seducing people and making everybody like you because you look good, and you come across somebody who's much older in age, maybe they've got some wrinkles, maybe they're not considered a sex symbol, and you go up to somebody like that and you tell them, hey, you have the opportunity to have your skin to be the skin of a child again. Would you take it? They probably jump right up out the wheelchair. One minute they can't walk, next minute here they go. You would have thought Jesus came down and touched them because they got out of the wheelchair so fast. I'm just being funny, but you get what I'm saying. There are some people that will look at that like, man, whatever. I don't need that. But there are some people, because of what they've gone through or because of the situation that they're in, that they would jump to that opportunity. If you're somebody who you've been burned up or scarred, or you've had some type of disease that's ruined your skin, and somebody came up to you and said, hey, God's going to give you the chance to have your skin fully restored to that of a child. You want to take this offer? Heck yeah. Right? And free of charge too? Yeah. In other words, some people just can't appreciate some things. It's too little for them. It's not a big deal for them. It's not enough for them. Because in their mind, they're used to bigger and better. And if they're not going big and they're not going all out, what's the purpose of it anymore? I don't care about it. But you get some people who have gone through some things, who have been looked down on, who have had some rough patches, and you give them a simple little offer, and they'll jump to it because they'll appreciate it more. So the little things that you get, the little things, the things that seem like little blessings, can go a long way for you now because of the things that you've gone through, especially through this past year. There will be things that you get going into this year that maybe you would not have quite appreciated as much as you would have prior to this particular year, because you've gone through some things that will make you appreciate what will seem small or a little thing to you first. But now you see that sometimes the little package has the big blessing. Just something to think about. Now go with me to chapter 10, still in 2 Kings, starting at verse 18. It says this. Now let me let you know what's going on here. We know how this played out prior to this particular area of the Bible. We know the story of Jezebel and Ahab. We know what Jezebel was about. She was a wicked woman that wanted to destroy God's people, wanted to shut the mouths, especially of God's prophets. And either you were going to be on God's side or you were going to be on Jezebel's side and worship Baal. And Jezebel wanted to make sure that you were either going to take her side, and if you weren't going to take her side, she was either going to destroy you or do what she could to shut you up. And so this went on for a long time. Her reign of terror went on, and just when we thought it was going to come to an end, thanks to Elijah, the great prophet Elijah, even he didn't quite get the job done. Jezebel sent a simple threat his way, and he ran scared. And so, like I said, the reign just went on until finally a man named Jehu becomes king, and he makes it his goal to put an end to Jezebel. He will not listen. He started out on a mission. He started his reign on a mission to make sure that her reign ended. He just wasn't going to have it. And so on his journey on horse and chariot to find her, there were people on his journey that kept stopping him, trying to talk to him, trying to reason with him, see if he's coming in peace. And he would just flat out kill them. He didn't skip a beat. He didn't waste time. He was on a mission. And so finally he gets to the place where Jezebel is. He's down low. He's looking up at Jezebel, who's up in a window. And he is saying, who is on my side, who? And he's really saying who's on the Lord's side, who? Because he was speaking on behalf of God. And the Bible says that 2 or 3 eunuchs that were up there with Jezebel tossed her out of the window, and she fell to her death. So her reign was over. But next thing you know, Jehu, he's not done. He also goes after Ahab, the husband of Jezebel, taking out all of Ahab's people. I mean, he is on a warpath. He's getting the job done. But then even after that, he's still not done. Now he's decided he wants to make sure that he destroys those people who serve Baal, who worship Baal. He's just not going to have it. And so let's look at this, 2 Kings chapter 10, starting at verse 18. Look at what it says. It says, "And Jehu gathered all the people together and said unto them, Ahab served Baal a little, but Jehu shall serve him much. Now therefore call unto me all the prophets of Baal and his servants and all his priests. Let none be wanting, for I have a great sacrifice to do. Baal, whosoever shall be wanting, he shall not live. But Jehu did it in subtlety, to the intent that he might destroy the worshipers of Baal." So what has happened here is this. Jehu, he's gathering some folks together. He's talking, and he says, okay, I know Ahab and all his folks, I know that they served Baal. They worshiped and served Baal a little bit, but I'm going to serve him much. But if you continue to read to the end of verse 19, we see that when he said all this stuff, he was being a little bit deceitful and mischievous to set his plan in place to destroy the prophets of Baal. So he had them thinking that he was fixing to do something big for Baal. Oh, he did something big, all right. And I love how he says it. Ahab served Baal a little bit, but I'm getting ready to serve Baal a lot. I'm about to serve him very much. And he's being funny. He's being a little bit facetious with the people. He's being sarcastic, but he's saying it in a way where they don't quite get it. He's saying it in a way where these people are going to think, oh, okay, we think we've done an outstanding job of serving Baal, but this guy, he's gonna really do something big. Let's see what he's gonna do. You know, he's really gonna do something. Let's watch this. So like I said, in verse 19, he's trying to get them together to have this little meal, to have this sacrifice unto Baal. He's trying to get something started where they can all come together for Baal, and they're all excited about it. What's he going to do? What's he going to do to serve him and worship him greater than we have? Because we've done so much, but he said we only served him a little. And what Jehu was really meaning was, what you guys have done in serving him is nothing compared to what I'm going to do. Because, I'm going to serve him. I'm going to give him the biggest serving he's ever got. And what I'm going to do is going to make you see that what you've done up until this point is little. You've done almost absolutely nothing. You think you've really done something by worshiping Baal. You really think you've done something by serving Ahab. You really think you've done something by sitting at Jezebel's table. But I'm here to get ready to show you that all you've done is make a huge, huge mistake. Because I'm the one who's really going to serve him. In other words, when Jehu said he was going to serve Baal, he meant it in a completely different context, but they didn't catch that, but they weren't supposed to catch it. And what I mean by him saying he meant it in a different context is this. Here's the best way I can put it. I don't know if you remember, but years back there was this movie called You Got Served. And in this movie, it was like a dance movie, where people were having these dance-offs. You might have a team of people that dance and another team of people that like to dance, and what they would do is battle. So what'll happen is one person from one team, they come out, do these dance moves, right? And then they back up. And then somebody from the opposing team, they jump out, they do their dance moves, right? And they keep going, and whoever, does the best wins. That dance team wins. And there will be a time in the movie where somebody wins and they get up in the face of somebody else and go, "You got served, sucker, you got served, you got served." Right? They didn't mean it in a nice way. They didn't mean, "Oh, I'm going to come up to you and serve you some food on a silver platter." That's not the serve they were talking about. That's a nice serving somebody. They meant it in the context of we made you look bad. We destroyed you. We ruined this for you. We served you. You got served. In other words, you got something, all right. You got what was coming to you. And that's what Jehu was really saying. He was saying, "Oh, you guys think you've served Baal, but oh, let me tell you, I'm about to serve him a lot. You just served him a little bit. But I'm really about to serve him. I'm about to give him what's due to him and all of you that have decided to worship and serve Baal." So he was a sneaky one. That was a clever little move he did there. Telling them what's getting ready to happen in a way that they don't even get it. It just went right over their head. But with that said, let me say this. There are some of you, you've gone through some things. You've had some rough patches this year, and you've had some people that not only have done you wrong, but it was like every time you tried to make progress and move ahead in your life and try to do a little bit better, these people would always try to find some kind of way to ruin things for you because of your faith in God, because you had a faith in things that they didn't even try to stretch their faith on. So out of jealousy, out of envy, for whatever reason at all, they did what they could to try to slow down your progress. And whether they realized it or not, they were being an agent for the enemy. And even if they did know, they don't care, even though they claim to be Christian. And so what has happened is it's as if they were working for a Jezebel. It's as if they were teaming up with an Ahab. It's as if they were serving Baal instead of serving God, because they failed to decide whose side they were going to be on. They continue to be caught between two opinions, serving God and serving Baal. And so in their mind, they're in the lead. In their mind, they've done a lot. In their mind, they've done a lot of work. They've covered a lot of ground. And they've had a lot of success slowing you down. That's what's going on in the minds of some people right now. We've done a good job. They high-five each other, have their little secret meetings, pat each other on the back, have a little powwow, talk about all the good progress that they made and how, they got to put their plans together to really do something big, to really stop some good stuff from happening for you for this upcoming year. They think they made a lot of progress, and they think they're about to make more. But what they don't know is God, he's fixing to do them like Jehu did them. He's going to show them, "Oh, you think you've done a lot. But in reality, you've done very little. You think you've served Baal while pretending to serve me good? Oh, I'm going to serve Baal. I'm going to serve Baal, but I'm going to serve him greater than you. I'm not only going to show you that what you've done, this so-called good progress you made, was little next to nothing, but I'm going to outdo you, and I'm going to serve the enemy greater than you ever could. Because he's fixing to serve him in a whole nother context, just like Jehu did. Getting ready to stop the party. Getting ready to stop the show. So right now you have people who, as you enter into this next year, they're hoping to see you fall on your face and fail bigger than you ever have before. And in their mind, they just know it's going to happen because in their mind, they've done a lot to stop you to this point. But like I said, God's going to get ready to show them that they've done oh so little. With that being said, this is an example of how little is going to work for you. Because all the hell that people have tried to plot against you, all the things that people have done over these years, especially this past year, to try to slow down your progress, even though you feel like you've been hindered greatly, you can't just go by feelings. You've got to go by your faith, not by feelings, not by, sight. You've got to go by faith, because your enemies and your naysayers and your secret friends, secret frenemies, people who pretend to be friends but are really enemies, and people that hide behind the scenes, people that want to hide behind other folks. They want to pretend to be leaders. They want to pretend to be people that care. They want to pretend to be shepherds, but when it's their time to stand out in front of people and protect them, they're the main ones that want to hide behind folks and say, well, you go do this, well, you go say that, and you come back and tell me what they did and come back and tell me what they said. But if they were really a leader and they really had the backbone, they would just come and talk to you themselves instead of hiding behind folks. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, boy. Oh, this is hitting some stuff. So anyway, now it's the opportunity of God to show up and show out, to usher you into this year, this Jubilee year. Come on. And as you walk in, he'll be facing your enemies, showing them, you think you've done a lot, but you've done a little. And this little that you've done has actually been for the good of my child. That little that the people did against you that they thought was a lot is only going to help you even the more so in this new year. Kind of like when people say despise not small beginnings. Don't despise the days and the times of small beginnings. Being caught up in little situations, in little places, doing what seemed to be little things, when really those things and places were just helping you get to your greater. People did you wrong and said a lot of harsh things, but those things helped you develop the tough skin that you need to level up and to walk into what it is that God has for you. You've missed out on some things. You've missed out on some opportunities, and some things that were rightfully yours were stolen from you. And there are things that are due to you that you probably don't know anything about because people hold it hostage and don't tell you about it. And those that are supposed to be your friends should tell you, but they're too busy trying to fit in and kiss behind to help you. So now what has happened is, as you get ready to cross over and go into the year, oh boy, as you get ready to go into your Jubilee, you'll walk into it even more appreciative of what you do get when you get it than you would have this past year. This is going to be a big year. You're going to have much. And all the much and a lot the enemy thought he did, he's fixing to find out it was just a little. And that little was good for you. It was good for you. Don't despise the little. So let's see what happens here. Verse 20, and Jehu said, proclaim a solemn assembly for Baal. And they proclaimed it. And Jehu sent through all Israel And all the worshippers of Baal came, so that there was not a man left that came not. And they came into the house of Baal, and the house of Baal was full from one end to another. And let me just pause and say this. You'd be surprised how many people that are supposed to be Christians that you see walk into the house of God on Sunday mornings. In their spare time, they're walking into the houses of some other gods. Oh boy. Oh, I'm going somewhere. They're walking into some houses of some idols. They're walking into to some secret places, worshiping stuff. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Let me just keep going. Verse 22, and he said unto him that was over the vestry, bring forth vestments for all the worshippers of Baal. And he brought them forth vestments. And Jehu went and Jehonadab, the son of Rechab, into the house of Baal, and said unto the worshippers of Baal, search and look that there be here with you none of the servants of the Lord, but the worshippers of Baal only. And when they went in to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings, Jehu appointed 80 men without, and said, if any of the men whom I have brought into your hands escape, he that letteth him go, his life shall be for the life of him. So it's set up to where all these worshipers of Baal are all together in the house of Baal. Jehu's got them thinking it's going to be a good old time. They're just going to worship Baal and serve Baal in this house. And he's saying, look around, make sure that none of these people that are serious about the one true God is in here, because we don't need them ruining stuff for us while we're here, and we don't need them watching and seeing what we do and then running and telling other people what we do behind closed doors. Oh boy, come on. Oh man. We don't need them in here seeing what we do so they can go back and tell folks that we're not really the Christians we act like we are on Sunday morning. We don't need them to know that their pastor is here with us. We don't need them to know that Reverend, Deacon, Bishop so-and-so is here with us, worshiping Baal. Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't want to hear it. Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to move on. 24, when they went in to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings, Jehu appointed 80 men without, and said, if any of the men whom I have brought into your hands escape, he that letteth him go, his life shall be for the life of him. And it came to pass, as soon as he had made an end of offering the burnt offering, that Jehu said to the guard and to the captains, go in and slay them, let none come forth. And they smote them with the edge of the sword. And the guard and the captains cast them out, and went to the city of the house of Baal. They brought forth the images out of the house of Baal, and burned them. And they break down the image of Baal, and break down the house of Baal, and made it a draught house unto this day. Thus Jehu destroyed Baal out of Israel. Jehu had them really thinking they had something going on. And all he was doing was setting them up to be destroyed. Had them killed. Destroyed the images of Baal, of this false god. Destroyed the house of Baal. He utterly destroyed Baal out of Israel. Some other folks somewhere else might have had a house of Baal, but God's people weren't going to have that house of Baal there anymore. They just weren't going to have it. Like I said, Jehu was on a mission. And for whoever this may be for, I'm telling you, God is on a mission for you. As long as you are mission-minded, as long as you are kingdom-minded, as long as you continue to be about the Father's business going into 2017, I'm here to let you know that God is on a mission. While you're going in the direction He has you, He's looking this way, pushing back the enemy and revealing to them who they really are, and showing them their true colors, showing them what's really in their heart that they don't want to see and that they don't want to look at. And they'll have to realize that they didn't have the pure heart. They didn't have the clean hands. He's caught them red-handed. Oh boy, here we go. Let's keep going here. Go with me to First Samuel chapter 17. I'm going to have fun with this one. First Samuel chapter 17. This is another familiar story. I won't dig too much into certain details of it. I'll try to just get right to it. We know the story of David, the one who was a shepherd boy, the one who went on to end up being king because he had a heart after God. We know all about David. And we know that David was the one that defeated the giant Goliath. We've heard this story, but just look at this real quick with me. Just going to look at a few verses. Look at verse 32 and 33. It says this, "And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine." Now we know how it played out. We know that we had the Israelites, God's people, and their leader, King Saul. They're in a war and they're getting ready to fight up against the Philistines, their arch enemies, right? The arch rivals. So God's people against the Philistines. And we know that there was a giant named Goliath who came out from amongst the Philistines. He presented himself. He knew people were going to be intimidated by him because of his size. So already people are looking at this giant, at how big he is. And they get to a point where they're afraid, and they're not going by faith. They're only going by sight. They're going by what their eyes see. But not only that, but also Goliath does a lot of trash talking. He says a lot of things that intimidate the people. He's wanting them, listen, he challenges God's people and says, hey, bring your best warrior, bring your best fighter, your best champion out of here. Watch me take him down, making all these bets about whether or not he's going to defeat him or not. So he's saying all this stuff, talking all this trash, and it's scaring God's people even the more so because he's making himself seem even bigger than he already looks. Listen, he's making himself seem even more unbeatable and unstoppable than how he already appears to be to the people. So not only do they see him as someone who's physically big, but they have a perception of him. Now here we are with perception again, because remember I talked about literal size and the perception of how big or small something or someone is, right? So he's physically big, Goliath, but now in the eyes of the people, in their perception, he's also big in other ways. He's big as in a fighter, a big and mighty champion that just can't be stopped because of all the trash talking that he's done to scare them even more. So he's big in both aspects to the people. So they don't know how to stop him. David comes on the scene. And he's saying that he wants his chance to fight this particular Philistine, Goliath. We see that in verse 32. Now look at what Saul says in verse 33. It says, "And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth." So Saul is also caught up in fear. Saul is also going by a perspective of Goliath, not just his literal physical size, but he's got a perspective, and he's saying, David, you cannot defeat him because you're young and you're inexperienced in this. And evidently, from what Goliath has been telling us while he's been trash talking us, evidently he's a mighty warrior. Evidently, he's been doing this for a while. He's not young and inexperienced like you, so therefore you might not be able to do this. He's got a perspective of Goliath, a huge perspective of him, and he has a small outlook on David. It's just big Goliath and little old David. And Goliath appears, perspective-wise, to be a big and mighty warrior who's undefeated. And David, from everyone's perspective, is nothing but a little old shepherd boy that knows nothing other than tending to the flock. That's it. So this is what they're going by. Big, little, big, little. And that's it. They didn't see anything special about little David. They found no significance in little David. They didn't see any might, power, or strength in little David. But David was not going by his own strength and might. He was going about things by the power of God. The people had failed to do this. The people had stopped depending on the power of God and became faithless because of their fear. Because they went by their sight and because they went by their perspective on things. And David was not having it. He was continuing to go by faith. And when he went by faith, he saw things from a different perspective than everybody else. So now let's see how this happens. We know that going on into verses 49 and 50, we see how David ends up defeating Goliath. We know that he went after Goliath. He had a bag of stones, and he took out a stone, and he used his slingshot to cast this stone, and the stone hit Goliath in his head, and it sunk into his head, and he fell, and David had defeated him. So we know that David won this battle with a little stone. Little David, with a little stone, defeated this big, huge Goliath. But my interest is not so much in 49 and 50. My interest is what happens prior to this in verse 40. Look at verse 40 with me. It says this, "And he took his staff in his hand, and chose 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag which he had, even in a scrip, and his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine." Why do I mention this verse? Let's break the verse down and see. First of all, it says that when he got ready to go after Goliath, he went with smooth stones. The word goes out of its way to let us know he had smooth stones. He didn't go with sharp, rough, jagged stones that could cut somebody open. In other words, he didn't go after Goliath with something sharp like a sword, like what the other people had been fighting with. Everybody else had been fighting with swords, sharp objects, and they thought that the only way to take Goliath down, or one of the only ways, would be to try to battle him out in a sword fight. But after seeing that huge heavy armor that he wore and seeing the long spear that he had, it seemed impossible. How do we sword fight with Goliath? But David didn't go with something sharp. He didn't go with sharp stones. He went with smooth stones, something totally opposite of what everybody else had. Let's look at the next thing. It says that he went with 5 smooth stones. Not David wanted to take 5 fingers of the fist and go punch Goliath, because you would think that might be the only other option, is to maybe say, hey, Goliath, instead of a sword fight, let's just have hand-to-hand combat. Let's fight this out. Let's grapple. Let's wrestle. That is something else that could have been considered by the people. But David wasn't trying to fight with his fists, not 5 fingers, but 5 stones. So once again, we see him with a mindset or a perspective that's different from what everybody else may be thinking. And finally, we see in this verse that he had a sling. In other words, he wasn't going to go and just throw the rock with his hand at Goliath. He was going to shoot the rock with a sling, showing that he was trying to go a far distance. So we see that since he's not trying to use something sharp, and he's not trying to use his fists, and since he's using a sling, putting these 3 things together, we see that he's not even thinking about trying to get all up on Goliath to fight him like everybody else is. So we see that not only is David looking at this situation from a different perspective from everybody else, But now also we see that, listen, David is looking at Goliath himself from a completely different perspective than everybody else. Because while everybody else is thinking that Goliath is too big to fight up close, David is thinking, yeah, he is too big to fight. He's too big to miss with this stone. Let me say this again. While everybody else is thinking Goliath is too big to take down, he's too big to fight, David is looking at him from the perspective of he's too big to miss. Y'all just want to try to find some way to get all up on him, but in reality, if you just do something simple from a distance and have faith in God, that, listen, God's going to be the one that takes him out. See, faith without works is dead. All David had to do was put some action in, and God was going to do the rest. He knew that. The Israelites were going by that faith, but they let the fear creep in. That was the only thing that was stopping them, because the fear, listen, crippled their perspective. Their perspective was focused on what God could do, but when fear sunk in, all they could think about was what they could and could not do. So while they're thinking that Goliath is too big to take down, David is thinking he's too big to miss with this stone. And even though this little smooth stone normally probably wouldn't do much anything, especially not compared to some fist fighting or sword fighting, I'm not going by my own strength. I'm going by God's, and knowing that if I just throw a little stone, if I just have a little bit of action and do my part, God will do his. It was all about his perspective. They were afraid. The people were afraid with their closed-minded perspective. But David, little David, with a little stone, a harmless, smooth stone from a huge distance, takes out a big, what supposedly was this big, huge, champion. All because he had a different perspective. He didn't look at him as just too big to destroy it all. He was just too big to be missed. In other words, he looked at him as an easy target. Easy, simple target. Little David with a little stone saved the day. Do not overlook the little people. The people that we don't think can do much, because sometimes they have a completely different perspective, a completely different outlook. Something to consider. And as I get ready to wrap this up, just two more spots to look at. First, I want to look at Psalms chapter 37. It says this, starting at verse 16, "A little that a righteous man hath is better than the riches of many wicked. For the arms of the wicked shall be broken, but the Lord upholdeth the righteous. The Lord knoweth the days of the upright, and their inheritance shall be forever." A lot of times as Christians, when we try to be good people and do the right thing and do the Christian thing, sometimes it's easy to get kind of mad, to get upset, sometimes even offended when we see people who love to be wicked and who do not hunger and thirst after righteousness like we do. We get kind of frustrated when it seems like they have so much going for them, when it seems like they have so much gain, when it seems like they have so much success, when it seems like they have so many riches, when we want our life and life more abundant. But you have to remember that even if in your perspective you have a little, You really, spiritually speaking, have so much more than the wicked man who may appear to have a lot of riches. Because even though it seems like he's living it up, what other choice does he have but to live it up, because his time is so much more limited compared to ours, right? Think about it. There's a time when his time will run out. But we as Christians have a holy inheritance that just does not belong to the wicked. The wicked, well, we're not supposed to wish bad on anybody, don't get me wrong. But we'll just put it this way. When people do not serve God, they want to live wickedly, it's like they're paving their own way to hell. They pave their own way there. They set themselves up for disaster for living the way that they do. Point being, do not envy them just because it seems like they have more than you. Because really, like I said, spiritually speaking, you have so much more. With that being said, the last place I want to take it to, Matthew chapter 16, verses 25 and 26. It says this: "For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. For what is a man that profiteth if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul?" So Jesus is speaking here, and what he's letting us know is this. Yes, you may profit a lot in this world. A person can gain so much they can feel like they've gained the whole world. But in order to gain the whole world and to have the whole world's love and acceptance and high fives, you have to sell out. You have to sell yourself short. You have to give in to the devil. It will cause you to not live for God. It will cause you to compromise. It will cause you to not live for God the way that you're supposed to. And we all know in the long run there's a price to pay for that. Right? Right. So even though you gained a lot, you really lose it all. You lose your soul in the process of gaining the whole world. So basically what you would be doing is you may be going from a little to a lot by gaining the world, but all you're doing is turning right around and losing it all again. You cannot gain all of the world and the love of the world and the appreciation and acceptance of the whole world and expect to continue to have your joy and your peace of mind that only God can give you. Do not try to gain it all and lose your whole soul in the process, or rather exchange your soul for the wickedness of this world. Don't compromise, don't give in, don't sell out. God has a plan and a purpose for you. Seek Him for His will. Don't give up. Don't tap out. Don't trade in your little to try to gain the whole world and lose your soul. That little that you have means so much more than losing your soul. The little goes a long way. You guys, I thank you all for tuning in. I hope that this message is a blessing to you all. And I believe that in this new year, that going into this new year, that blessings are going to overtake us. A lot of us are going to receive our suddenlies, sudden blessings, sudden miracles that we've been waiting for. But don't sell out. Don't sell yourself short. Don't give up. Don't give in. Don't tap out. Don't gain the whole world and lose your soul just trying to have more than a little. Because sometimes it's the little things in life. Heavenly Father, I thank you for another time to minister another word. I thank you, Lord. I bless you, God, the way you bless us. Lord, let this be a new beginning in this new year, a prosperous year. 2017, 1 and 7, together making 8, representing new beginnings. Lord, a new beginning, a fresh start for your people. Rest, restoration, joy, peace. Lord, bless your people. Enlarge our territories, increase us. And I give you the praise, the glory, and the honor. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen.